くりレ夢ムです。
ゆっくりマリサだぜ。
Hi, Raimo. Hi, Marissa. Hey guys. Let's learn about the three prisoners paradox.
ゆっくりしていってね。
Chapter 8. Why Our Intuition Fails. The Psychology of Conditional Probability. The question is, why? Why do so many people, including highly trained mathematicians, get this wrong? Several overlapping psychological mechanisms are at work. The first is what psychologists call the reference class problem. When Alan hears there are two of us left, his mind naturally treats this as a fresh start. He frames the problem as a new lottery. Two people, one prize. He doesn't ask, what was I told, and how was the selection made? He asks, how many candidates remain? And the answer to that question, two, is readily available. And it gives a feeling of certainty that overwhelms the more subtle question of how the candidates were whittled down. The second mechanism is the illusion of symmetry. Faced with two options, humans tend to assume symmetry in the absence of obvious distinguishing features. There are two people. I don't see any reason why one should be more likely than the other. Therefore, 50-50. This is a useful heuristic in many situations, but it is wrong here, because there is a reason why the probabilities are asymmetric, and that reason is hidden in the process that generated the information, not visible on the surface. The third mechanism is the neglect of the generation process. Humans are extraordinarily bad at reasoning about probabilities that depend on how information came to be. We process information as if it arrived from nowhere, as if a fact just appeared in the world without being the output of a process that was itself subject to constraints. The three prisoners problem and the Monty Hall problem both derive their counterintuitive character from the fact that the information was selected by an agent operating under constraints, and those constraints carry information about the underlying state of the world. Most people ignore those constraints entirely. The fourth is what Kahneman and Tversky called base rate neglect. The prior probabilities, the 1 in 3, 2 in 3 distribution established before any information arrived, are abstract background information. The new information, Ben will be executed, is vivid and concrete. Human minds systematically underweight abstract background probabilities and overweight vivid immediate information. The prior gets washed away. The concrete replaces the abstract, and the answer comes out wrong. Together, these mechanisms produce a nearly universal intuitive error. It is not a sign of stupidity. It is a feature of a cognitive architecture that was built for a world very different from the abstract world of probability theory. Our intuitions about risk and uncertainty are well calibrated for immediate, concrete, repeated experience problems. They are poorly calibrated for problems that require tracking the generation of information through constrained processes. Chapter 9. Bertrand's Box. The great-grandparent of the paradox, the three prisoners problem, did not emerge from nowhere. It has a family tree that stretches back at least to 1889, when the French mathematician Joseph Bertrand, a genuine prodigy who had earned both a degree and a doctorate by the age of 17, published a book on probability theory containing a puzzle that is, in essential structure, identical to the one Gardner would publish 70 years later. Bertrand's puzzle involves 3 boxes. One box contains 2 gold coins. One box contains 2 silver coins. One box contains 1 gold coin and 1 silver coin. You choose a box at random, reach in without looking, and pull out a coin. The coin you've drawn is gold. What is the probability that the other coin in the same box is also gold? The intuitive answer is 1 in 2. You're holding a gold coin. The box you're in either has another gold coin or a silver coin. 2 options. 50-50. The correct answer is 2 in 3. Why? Because the box you drew from is not equally likely to be the all-gold box and the mixed box. The all-gold box contains 2 gold coins, so if you randomly drew from it, you had 2 opportunities to draw gold. The mixed box contains only 1 gold coin, so you had only 1 opportunity. Having drawn a gold coin, you are twice as likely to be in the all-gold box as in the mixed box. The argument is structurally identical to the 3 prisoners problem. The event you observe, drawing a gold coin, was more likely under some scenarios than others. That difference in likelihood is what shifts the probabilities. Bertrand recognized this. He presented the puzzle as an illustration of the non-obvious nature of conditional probability. He got the right answer. And then, for 70 years, the puzzle sat largely ignored, rediscovered occasionally, but never achieving widespread fame. It would take Martin Gardner and then Marilyn Vos Savant to bring the essential paradox to a mass audience, and to discover how violently that audience would resist the correct answer. Chapter 10. A deeper look at what Bayes really means now that we have the paradox and its solution and its history. Let's go deeper into what Bayesian reasoning actually is, and why it is both so powerful and so psychologically difficult. The core of Bayesian reasoning is a simple statement about rational belief. If you want to reason correctly about the probability of something being true, you need to account for 3 things. First, your prior probability. How likely did you think it was before you got the current evidence? Second, the likelihood. Given each possible state of the world, how probable was the evidence you observed? Third, the combination. How do these 2 things together determine your posterior probability? What makes this non-trivial in practice is the second item, tracking the likelihood. How probable was the evidence you observed, given different possible states of the world? In the 3 prisoners problem, the evidence is the warden's statement. The question is, how probable was this statement under each possible scenario? And the answer is asymmetric. In the scenario where Claire is pardoned, the statement was mandatory. In the scenario where Alan is pardoned, the statement was just one of 2 options. In medicine, this plays out in a domain with enormous real-world stakes. Suppose you take a screening test for a disease, and the result comes back positive. Your intuition immediately jumps. I must have the disease. The test was positive, but this inference ignores the prior. If the disease affects 1 person in 1,000, and the test has a small error rate, even a very small one, then a positive test result might still mean you're more likely to be one of the false positives than one of the true positives. The prior probability of having the disease, 1 in 1,000, is so low that the test result, though informative, doesn't necessarily flip the odds past 50%. Doctors who fail to reason this way recommend unnecessary treatment. Juries who fail to reason this way convict innocent people. The so-called prosecutor's fallacy, where the tiny probability of a DNA match by chance is presented as if it means the defendant is almost certainly guilty, without accounting for how many other potential suspects there are. Investors who fail to reason this way see a stock that rose 5 days in a row and conclude it must keep rising, ignoring the base rate of how often such streaks are followed by declines. Bayesian reasoning is not just an abstract tool for probability puzzles. It is the correct framework for updating beliefs under uncertainty. And the consistent failure of intuition to follow this framework, the near universality of base rate neglect, the illusion of symmetry, the ignoring of generation processes, has consequences that extend far beyond puzzle solving. Chapter 11. Pause. The second challenge, I want to stop here and ask you something more personal. Think about a time in your life when you updated your beliefs based on new information. Maybe you heard a rumor about a friend, or received a piece of news that changed how you saw a situation. Looking back, did you account for how that information was generated? Did you ask, who told me this? What were they in a position to know? What were their incentives? What would they have said if things had been different? Or did you, like Alan in his prison cell, simply take the information at face value and update your picture of the world as if the message had arrived from nowhere, carrying only its literal content? Because this is what we almost always do. We treat incoming information as data, clean, unprocessed, free of the fingerprints of the process that generated it. We do not ask, often enough, how likely was it that I would receive exactly this information, given different possible states of the world? Bayesian reasoning demands that question, and consistently asking it, in everyday life, not just in probability puzzles, changes the way you see things. Tell me in the comments, was there a moment in your life when you wish you had reasoned more like Bayes? A moment when you gave too much weight to what you heard and not enough to the process by which you came to hear it? Chapter 12. The Wars Over Bayesianism. Frequentists versus Bayesians. Thomas Bayes' theorem was rediscovered and extended by the French mathematician Pierre-Simon Laplace in the late 18th century, who gave it its modern mathematical form and applied it to problems in astronomy, demography, and jurisprudence. Laplace was perhaps the most powerful mathematician of his era, and his endorsement gave Bayesian probability theory a solid foundation. But in the 20th century, a different school of statistical thought rose to dominance, and it is the one most students encounter today: frequentism. Frequentists argue that probability should only be defined in terms of repeated experiments. The probability of heads when flipping a coin is 1 in 2 because, over many flips, the frequency of heads converges to 1 in 2. Probability is a property of processes, not of beliefs. From the frequentist perspective, asking, what is the probability that Alan is pardoned, is almost meaningless. Alan is either pardoned or not. There is no repetition, no frequency. The Bayesian answer is that probability is a degree of belief, a rational agent's best assessment of the likelihood of something being true, given their knowledge. And Bayes' theorem is the rule for how that degree of belief should update when new evidence arrives. The debate between these two camps was fierce for much of the 20th century. Frequentists accused Bayesians of smuggling subjectivity into supposedly objective mathematics. The choice of the prior, after all, reflects the agent's initial beliefs, which could differ from person to person. Bayesians accused frequentists of producing a framework that was too rigid to apply to the majority of real-world problems, where repetition is impossible and what you need is a principled way to make decisions under uncertainty. The dispute was not merely academic. It shaped how clinical trials were designed and analyzed, how forensic evidence was interpreted in courts, how intelligence analysts evaluated threat probabilities, how machine learning algorithms were built. In recent decades, Bayesian methods have gained substantially in both theoretical respectability and practical application. The rise of computing made it feasible to implement Bayesian inference on large data sets. The success of Bayesian spam filters, recommendation systems, medical diagnostic algorithms, and language models has demonstrated the practical power of the Bayesian framework. The debate is not over. Frequentist methods remain dominant in many scientific disciplines, but the pendulum has swung noticeably toward Bayes. What is remarkable is that the conceptual core of this century-long debate can be illustrated with 3 prisoners, 1 pardoned, and a warden who has to answer a simple question. Chapter 13. The Generalization. When the puzzle becomes a principle, the 3 prisoners problem and the Monty Hall problem are members of a much larger family of problems, all of which share the same essential structure. An agent receives information that was generated by a constrained process and must reason about what that information implies for the underlying state of the world. This family includes medical diagnosis, the classic mammography problem, where a positive test result must be interpreted against the base rate of the disease. It includes forensic evidence, where the rarity of a genetic marker must be interpreted against the number of potential suspects. It includes radar systems, where a signal must be interpreted against the background rate of false positives in a sea of noise. It includes financial forecasting, where a series of positive returns must be interpreted against the base rate of such sequences being followed by reversals. In all of these cases, the Bayesian framework gives the correct answer, and raw intuition gives the wrong one. And in all of these cases, the cost of getting it wrong is not abstract. It is measured in misdiagnosis, wrongful convictions, missed threats, bad investments, and poor decisions at every scale. One of the most powerful demonstrations of Bayesian reasoning involves what happens when you ask it in sequence. Every new piece of evidence updates the posterior, which then becomes the prior for the next piece of evidence. Beliefs built up through iterated Bayesian updating are, in a precise sense, the most rational representation of what the available evidence supports. And strikingly, if two people start with different priors, different initial beliefs, but both update correctly using Bayes' rule, they will converge toward agreement as evidence accumulates, regardless of where they started. This is a powerful argument for a scientific epistemology. The subjective element, the prior, gets washed out by evidence over time. What survives, in the long run, is not what you originally believed, but what the evidence compels. The Reverend Bayes, writing in the 1740s partly to defend the rationality of religious belief, created a framework that turned out to be one of the most powerful arguments for the superiority of evidence over prior conviction. Chapter 14, The Modern World and the Bayesian Brain. One final twist in this story deserves attention. The hypothesis that the human brain is, in some deep sense, a Bayesian machine. Just one that operates on priors and likelihoods built for survival in an ancestral environment, rather than for navigating probability puzzles in Scientific American. In cognitive science and computational neuroscience, Bayesian brain theory has become one of the most influential frameworks for understanding perception, motor control, and decision-making. The idea is that the brain constantly makes predictions about sensory input, maintains probability distributions over possible states of the world, and updates them in response to evidence, exactly as Bayes' rule prescribes. When you catch a ball, you don't calculate trajectory from scratch. Your brain maintains a prior model of how objects move, updates it with visual and proprioceptive evidence thousands of times per second, and generates smooth, accurate motor commands. This is Bayesian inference implemented in flesh and electricity, operating far below conscious awareness at speeds no deliberate calculation could match. When you recognize a face in a crowd, your brain is doing something similar, comparing incoming sensory evidence against a prior model of how faces look, updating probabilities over possible identities, and committing to the most likely one. When you hear an ambiguous sound in the middle of the night, your brain weighs prior probabilities of benign and threatening explanations against the likelihood of the sensory input under each, and generates a level of alertness appropriate to the posterior. On this view, human brains are Bayesian, but calibrated to an environment and a set of tasks very different from abstract probability problems. The priors we carry are built from evolutionary history and personal experience with the physical and social world. They are well suited to recognizing faces, navigating terrain, and interpreting social cues. They are not well suited to reasoning about the policy constraints of prison wardens or the strategic behavior of television game show hosts. The three prisoners paradox trips us up not because we are bad at Bayesian reasoning, but because we are Bayesian reasoners operating outside our domain. The same machinery that gives you exquisite sensitivity to the generation of social information, reading between the lines of what someone says, inferring intent from behavior, detecting deception from subtle cues, betrays you when the generating process is abstract and defined by precise mathematical rules rather than by human psychology. We are, in a sense, too good at reading meaning into information to be good at ignoring the wrong kinds of meaning. Epilogue. The cell door and the world outside today. We traveled from a prison cell in 1959 to the foundations of how human beings should reason under uncertainty. We met Alan, whose desperate hope led him into one of the most widespread reasoning errors in the history of probability. We traced the lineage of the puzzle back to Bertrand's boxes in 1889 and forward to the storm that erupted around Marilyn Voss' Savant's column in 1990, when 1,000 PhDs were confidently, vehemently, and unanimously wrong. We met Thomas Bayes, the quiet minister who left behind, unpublished and unfeeded, a framework that would eventually reshape medicine, law, artificial intelligence, and the philosophy of rational belief. We explored why human intuition fails so consistently at conditional probability and why that failure has real consequences in the world. And we ended with the possibility that the brain itself is a Bayesian machine, one that is simply running the wrong priors for the puzzle in front of it. Here is what I want to leave you with. The three prisoners paradox is a puzzle, but what it teaches is not a puzzle, it is a discipline. It teaches you to slow down and ask, every time you receive information, how was this generated? What process produced it? What would the same process have produced if the underlying facts were different? Those questions are harder to ask than how many options remain. They require more patience, more abstraction, more willingness to distrust the first answer that feels obvious. But they are the questions that lead to correct beliefs. And correct beliefs, in the long run, are the foundation of correct decisions. Alan sat in his cell and thought he knew. He had been told something, and he had updated his probability from 1 in 3 to 1 in 2, and he felt better. He was wrong. The world had not changed. Only his model of the world had changed, and it had changed incorrectly, because he had not asked the right question about how the information was produced. We do this every day. We receive information. We update. We feel the relief of what seems like greater certainty. And often, not always, but often, we are making exactly Alan's mistake. The cell door, when it opens, will reveal whatever it reveals. Our job is to hold our beliefs correctly in the meantime. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this video added something to the way you think, a like and a subscription genuinely help this work reach more people. I'll see you next time. The warden hasn't flipped the coin yet. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.